Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about content and how to use content to engage our market. And this is just one of the things that I teach in the course, Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting. And the idea is to start a conversation, not to pitch, to get to know each other, to build interest. And this has been insanely effective in 2018 and going into 2019. I'm offering it up to groups, to companies. If you either have a business development or a sales development team and they're running into a wall on the cold outreach, not the inbound, but the cold, dormant, beautiful, total addressable market that they can't seem to get into, I got the course for you. Start the conversation, get the meeting. You can find it at b2brevenue.com. You can also find my free ebook there, How Companies Make Product Selections. All you have to do is type in your email address, hit submit, and the link to the book will be sent to you in email. Let's get into the interview, and I'll sum it up at the end. Really appreciate everybody's support. Make sure you're also checking out Co-Video. Co-Video is the funnest, easiest, most organic, natural way of connecting up with your audience. Video, email really blew up last year in 2018. It's going to be the differentiator in 2019, so make sure you're checking it out, as well as Pipedrive and Nudge. They both have a free month with the coupon code Brutal Truth. Hey, do you know I have a couple other podcasts? The Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling and Sales Questions. Make sure you're listening to them. Also, connect up on with me and LinkedIn, and if you see some of my content go by, give it a little like and a thumbs up. Here we go. Hey, David. Thanks for joining us today.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Pause just a second. I got to close the door. All right. Go ahead.
Here we go. Hey, David. Thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a owner of a company called Spark Media Solutions. We are a B2B content marketing firm, primarily for the tech industry. And I've been doing that now for 11 years, and we work in some very specific sectors within that: security, cloud computing, IT, development, recruiting even. And I have a background in advertising, comedy even, too, as well. And I'm a big fan of San Francisco. I used to be a tour guide.
Yeah, cool. And what particular technology excites you most today?
That's a good question. What particular technology excites me the most? I would just say all the new, we do a lot of video. So every new video technology that tries to simplify the production process excites me. I'm not going to point to anyone in particular, but if you have a technology that simplifies the video production process, I'm always interested.
Yeah. And what type of content do you typically focus on? Is it video or is it written blogs? Is it
good 2/3 of the work that we do is video. That's just where some of the heaviest demand is, and also the greatest value we can get out of it. And we do the majority of our work is at trade shows, conferences, live events, and what we're probably most well known for is we produce a lot of really funny man on the street style videos, which I always argue is the better way to go than creating a completely redundant sizzle reel from a live event, which you could literally take one clip from one, exchange it from another, and you wouldn't change a darn thing. So we create funny man on the street style videos at any type of event, and usually it's tech conferences. And we purposely do really like inappropriate stuff. Like I'll go to security conferences and point blank ask people, what's your password? Or how do I break into your network? Okay. And, it's to get a rise out of people and see how they'd react.
I've for the last 4 months, I've been doing quite a bit of experimenting with humorous videos, and the reaction is more powerful than anything else I've ever done. So
that is an extraordinarily good point you just made right there. And can I just isolate that one comment right there? Because that is the big thing that most people do not get in video. They think, oh, we need certain words said on camera.
Yeah.
No. If that's all you want, write an article, write a white paper, be done with it. Video, the whole point of video is visibly seeing the reaction when a question is asked or how people are responding. I mean, take a look at all reality TV. It's all about reaction shots. And that's why, and this is my number one tip for anyone who's doing any kind of video interviewing, never, ever send the questions beforehand. Even if they demand it, just say, we're going to talk about generally this, because if you send the questions beforehand, that opportunity of seeing that reaction shot, it's gone. 100% gone.
I couldn't agree with you more, and humor sells. Humor is engaging. So much of the stuff that we do is hard to understand, and everyone's telling us about facts and figures and beautiful, futures. But we engage in human experience, human troubles, and commonalities that we all share. And the reactions that I've gotten, and I've been trying to work with my clients and even making them completely unbranded, but allowing an influencer to share it and then comment on the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how about we talked a little bit about security. That's an area that we both know a lot about. I mean, that market is very complex and getting even more complex and more important.
More complex and growing like mad.
Yeah. And complex not only in products, but in, how people buy them. I was a part of a startup on the third round of salespeople, and they had gone through their network people. They failed. Then they hired security people. They failed. And then they hired software people. And we succeeded because we understood how the company bought that piece of security.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are your clients struggling with as far as selling their products into that market space?
Every time we work with a security company, I always ask the inevitable question. So, who are you trying to reach? And everybody answers, we're trying to reach the CISOs and the CSOs. For those people know, it stands for Chief Information Security Officer or Chief Security Officer. And these men and women who hold this title are truly inundated by pitches, which they don't want to hear, but they do want to communicate with security vendors because there is a codependent relationship. They need these products to secure their organization, and the vendors need, obviously, the CISOs to approve the purchase of the products because these people are the final gatekeepers. And so there's this sort of battering that's happening from the vendors desperately wanting attention, and the CISOs going, I don't like that kind of battering. It's kind of driving me crazy. And it's becoming sort of overwhelming. What I noticed on LinkedIn is that there was a lot of discussion in this space primarily brought up by CISOs, as to sort of the frustration that they're dealing with. It's not that they don't want to hear from them, but they just don't want to hear the pitch. I started a series on Forbes just isolating this CISO security vendor relationship, and I'm kind of overwhelmed at how much people are glomming onto it and appreciating sort of the analysis that's going on, and the contributions, the comments have been phenomenal.
And I would almost say that every executive at a company could be interchanged with the CISO because, and a lot of companies don't.
So why do you say that? I'm intrigued by that line. Why do you think that?
Because they're all being inundated with pitches.
Well, it's just the complaint that I hear, is that the CISO is traditionally not a business person, and they are very much becoming that. And this is a trend that started many years ago. This is not new. Because they have to, quote, speak the language of the business. Again, this is an old trend. But they come from a world that's not technically running the business. But one of the other things that a CISO said that I thought was very interesting is that, 2-3 CEOs of competitive companies are not going to share information. They just simply are not, because they're competitors. But 2-3 CISOs from competitive information or competitive companies will happily share information because they're all trying to stop the same problem of, securing their environment. So there's a very non-competitive world of CISOs, which I think is rather fascinating because in solving their problem is actually not competitive. no CISO really wants to see a direct competitor get hacked because it actually makes everyone in the industry look bad and them look bad as well. So there is a mutual desire for everyone to be protected.
And so what is your recommendation for communicating with them?
So this actually points to the very last article I wrote in this series, which is 15 ways security vendors can make first contact with a CISO. The bottom line is CISOs universally, all the ones that I spoke to, despise traditional marketing and direct marketing. They hate it. They don't respond to it. They do respond to relation-based marketing. But, and this is what I'm working on next, is that is difficult, if not impossible, to scale. So there is that insane dynamic that you're dealing with right there. But they want vendors to come to them and help them out with the problems that they're trying to solve. And if you look at this article, you'll see there's 15 actual techniques on how you can do that, how you make that first moment of contact with them. And I will tell you one of them not to do, and this is the one I've heard over and over again, do not ask for, quote, 15 minutes of their time. They despise that line, hate it.
Yeah, that because I'm on the sales side and I've interview all kinds of people from CMOs to CSOs to CROs, CEOs. Nobody likes that line. It's just been, it's the, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee thing? It's like, right.
But one of the tips is buying a meal. And I argue, that's a shaky one because, first of all CISOs eat, all right? So to take them out for a meal would be okay. Although, if you go out for a vendor meal, it's not going to be a 30-minute meal. So that one may or may not work because it does fall along the sort of the 15 minutes line. But ultimately, you are literally feeding a need, and that is food.
And what would you do if you were a rep or a marketer even at one of these security companies that would be able to do something at scale as opposed to just the one-on-one basis?
So the way that we do it and the way we work with security companies is we have this philosophy of relation-based content. So all the content that we create, we use it as a means to create relations with influencers in the industry. And I'll give you so the traditional model, and then sort of our whole model is based on this theory that, Brian, it's far easier for me to ask you, may I interview you? May I publish your wisdom versus, Brian, can I give you a 10-minute pitch of my company? People are far more responsive to the first question than the second. So assuming that you believe that to be true, which is what we believe to be true, and it's been essentially the model of our business for 11 years, we go out and we create first engagements with all these influencers in the industry. I mean, I've been doing this for 9 years, and I've totally interviewed all the who's who in security, or not all, but many of them. And over those years, I've built up enough goodwill in the industry that they come back for more interviews, and I can get more and more over time. So being in our content is something that they desire to be a part of. And then what happens is, if I interview you and I'm doing it for a company, say like HP, which we've worked with before, I may have a microphone with a flag underneath it that says HP on it, and then we'll have an HP bug in the corner, and we're talking about some issue in security. And I don't need you to say anything about HP, but I just need you to give me your wisdom. Now, if I get 20 other people of your same stature talking about security issues with HP branding around you, now what this is 21 well-known industry influencers in security talking about security with HP branding. It's kind of an implied endorsement, and this is where the scaled version of content and relations comes, is because now the whole industry is seeing that you are now related to these people. But we also, and this is what's critical about content marketing that I think most people miss, is when you produce a content, you just don't put it out there and be done with it. You use that as a means to follow up with the person that you interviewed, to deepen that relationship even more. And we did this recently with the Forbes series. It was exactly that. As people started liking and commenting on the articles, I personally reached out to them and said, thanks a lot. Thanks for your comment. Here, what do you think about this? And then the conversation started rolling. Now, I reached out to probably 150 people. Through that, I started to develop at least 24 relationships with CISOs. And I've developed relationships with other industry experts. And I did this all within 2 weeks.
And that is something that is effective. And why do you think people don't understand that?
Because they go back to the old models of marketing. Because what happens is if you get a large enough list and you push stuff out there, you will get a percentage response. It's just kind of inevitable. You get some kind of response. And now you believe things are working. And, I've had this with some clients where they'll just see certain traffic or they'll put out some advertising and they'll see, that just numbers are going up and there are some comments. But because they're advertising to the wrong audience, the comments aren't appropriate. And so therefore the traffic isn't appropriate. And so, yes, you've got numbers, but you don't have the connections with the people that you want to have connections. Stop relying on numbers and look at who's responding, not the numbers.
Yeah, because this is kind of almost what you see as far as advocacy marketing on the back end. Once they become customers and happy customers, you make them your advocates. This is more as an icebreaker to get into new opportunities, because I agree with you completely. Technical people in general want to share their wisdom, their viewpoints, and their understanding on where things are going. And they want to be heard as opposed to pitched to.
That, that's a good line. They'd rather be heard than pitched to. And if you keep that philosophy in mind, then you're going to be an amazing salesperson and an amazing marketer. But you have to keep that in mind. Like, keep hearing, keep listening, keep responding, and actively responding to them. I mean, I had another client that's not in the security space, that saw that what I was doing and asked, how did you get everybody to engage on these articles? And I said, I didn't get them to engage. They were already talking about these topics. I just saw that they were talking about these topics, and I just put some level of organization around it. That's it. That's all I did. I just allowed the conversation to keep going, but put organization around it. So that's my advice to others. I know you're desperate to sell product X, and you want to try to get people to converse about the area of product X, but first just see what they're talking about now and focus on that. And then from there, you can get them to product X, but develop the relationship first. That's core. That's so core. I mean, that's basic sales 101.
Well, yes, because you go from being outside the tribe to part of the tribe.
Right.
And they're not sitting around, waiting for your call, and they may not even be aware that there is a problem that you can solve, or that problem even exists. That learning and interest needs to be cultivated. And you're not going to do that in a 15-minute meeting. When you're talking about you and what you do and what you've done for other people, no one cares. And I think this is what's killing business-to-business sales and marketing. Because, marketing's just putting out, the top 5 ways of doing this and the top 3 ways of doing that. That's somewhat associated with what they do, so that they'll get, contacts, but not leads. And then, pump it to sales, and the salespeople go, well, they have no interest in what we're doing. You have to build that interest.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, how many clients do you work with? They'll go to a trade show or conference and they go, if we can just land one client from this event, then it's worth it for us to be here. because it's probably even more than worth it because the lifetime value of that client will be, way more than the cost that they spent at the trade show. And yet, even with that, they spend a fortune on a booth. They spend a fortune on the marketing for it, and they don't heavily go into relation-based marketing. And if the reality is that you really just need one sale, then go all in on the relationship marketing and forget everything else. If just one or two sales are huge for you, then focus on the relation. And that's my argument. We have clients that, if they get a new customer, that's inevitably minimum 6, probably 7-figure lifetime value of the client. And so you just got to focus on that relationship selling. The one person I interviewed before, he spent a lot of money on basic security marketing, trade show booth, purchase, everything. And he noticed it didn't give him nearly the impact of just hosting a small dinner. He'd spend $50,000 on that, but he'd host a small dinner for $5,000 with 15 people, and it had far greater impact.
Yeah, and a lot of people I see doing that is not doing the booth and not going to the conference, but getting, a venue across the street or down the street and doing a small intimate thing. Now, what is your feeling, or have you explored the idea of moving this sales development role from underneath sales, the outbound pure cold outreach, and putting it under marketing as what I would call like a marketing development rep to build this type of engagement with the market for content, not for, sales meetings?
Well, that's my philosophy is, building that relationship all around content. Ultimately you need the salesperson to come in to develop the sales relationship with them. But in terms of forming that initial relationship, one of the roles that we hear that is probably the most popular in terms of developing that initial relationship is a sales engineer, someone who can definitely walk the walk and talk the talk, is a perfect person. And the other tip that we heard a lot of is whatever nonprofit groups are in your industry, like in the security industry, there's a group called the ISSA, which is usually security leaders, people of this CISO level. They are extraordinarily appreciative of people who sponsor their events. Their events, the cost to sponsor them are nominal compared to these huge conferences. And so they love it when people sponsor it, and when employees of the company come in and volunteer and they participate. That's probably one of the easiest and cheapest ways to get into that high level of connection with people in your industry. And I don't know what it is for all industries, but in security, ISSA, and they have local chapters all over the country.
You'd be surprised. Most industries are like that. I've sold, very, to marketers, sales leaders, engineers. They're all human beings, and they're not sitting around waiting for you to call. But they want to know what's going on. They're curious about what the other people are doing and how they can do their job better.
There was a quote that one of the CISOs gave me. He goes, "Humanity can pierce our shells." So if you think that some person you're trying to break through to is a tough cookie and you're never going to get through to them, just drop the sales veneer and just be as human as possible to them.
It is amazing how it works. And I'm sure this is how you get your business.
Well, my whole business is just I want to hear how awesome your thoughts are. That's just, if I can get that information out of you and record it in some form and then publish it, then we'll become friends. Simple as that.
And the sale is a natural progression of the relationship.
But here's the part that unfortunately falls, and that is after the content is published, using that as a means to build the relationship. with the person in the content and the people responding to the content. The number of clients that drop the ball on this is astounding. And I keep stressing that is right there. That's the linchpin right there. It's not, oh, we published this content and look, we got 20 videos out there, or this video got X thousands of views. The issue is the moment you drop it, how you're relating to the person in it and how you're relating to the people responding to it. And that's where the business happens at that moment. And
these Forbes articles, how should they search for them or find them?
If you go into Forbes, you can see CISO / just do a search on CISO / security vendor, or actually I put a summary with links to all of it on my personal blog, which is sparkminute.com. It's right there, and so you can get to access to all of them. And then I also put links to the conversations about each blog because there's no comments on Forbes, so there's huge conversation going on LinkedIn, and so you can click over to those conversations.
As well, you wrote a book as well, didn't you?
I wrote a book called 3 Feet from 7 Figures, One-on-One Engagement Techniques to Qualify More Leads at Trade Shows. So since we do so much work at trade shows and conferences, I've noticed a lot of bad behavior, and we started to realize that there's a better way of doing this. The classic things, where people stare at their phone or talk to their colleagues or their back is to the floor. And so it's a book of what behaviors to stop, those 3 right there, but also how to engage with people. How do I close that 3 feet gap with that random person walking by and make that, positive moment of engagement. And I'll just tell you, it's a fun, easy book to read. It's only 100 pages. It's got a lot of cartoons in it. We actually sell a lot of these books in bulk to event producers who want to give it away to their sponsors. It's a cheap giveaway to a sponsor for them to be better, because if they're better, then they're happier and the attendees are happier. So that's all. And then we also do provide training on that topic as well.
Great, David. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Brian.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking to Joyce. That story is pretty compelling. And, I don't know how people do it with kids. I don't have any kids. And when I see how much work they are and how important it is to raise them right, and that balance, I wish I had it. I had 2 cats and I found them overwhelming. But I'm kind of a 100% focused guy on one thing, and that's selling. Love selling. Also, got a webinar coming up with some folks coming up, I think, on the 18th of December. Look for that. I'll be announcing it on LinkedIn. We're going to be talking about marketing mistakes, the 5 things that we see happening today. And although my career has been pretty much, I'd say 80% sales only, I've always been at early stage startups where we required salespeople to work tightly with marketing, as well as being an entrepreneur and an investor in a B2C business where I became one of the early users of Google AdWords and applying that to the business, which blew up in the good way, not the bad way. But for the last 6 years, I've been pretty much a content marketer with the podcast, YouTube, LinkedIn, social stuff. And I've learned a lot through that. And you learn a lot when it's your money. I'll tell you, it's very different spending your money than somebody else's. And I'll share the lessons I've learned from that, as well as the lessons from the 50 CMOs that I've interviewed about what's working today in B2B marketing. Look for that. Arkadin is the sponsor of it, so you can go to arkadin.com, look for it there, or just watch my LinkedIn page. I'll be announcing it probably again next weekend. It's going to be a great conversation. I hope you'll get a lot out of it. I'm going to pretty much share a strategy that I've put together that's been pretty effective on a very small, relatively small team and budget. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.